With the awareness of science of reading, more and more reading teachers are searching for how to implement the best reading strategies into their own classrooms. Schools are beginning to make a shift to a more phonics approach, and teachers are hungry to improve their instruction. However, it seems as though many schools are more focused on giving professional development to the younger grades and forget that many of the upper elementary teachers face the same challenges. That is why I wanted to share some of the strategies that I have utilized in my own classroom with the support of my kindergarten background. In this video, I'm going to share with you some of my go-to activities for teaching phonics in upper elementary. Hello, my name is Bridget Spackman. I'm a 4th grade ELA and social studies teacher in Central Pennsylvania. I have over a decade of experience in kindergarten, 4th, and 6th grade. I have a passion for ELA, authentic instruction, and rigorous teaching. If topics such as this interest you, then I would like you to like the video and subscribe to this channel. Don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you can get notified the next time I go live or I upload a new video. The research is screaming, and it's undeniable that a shift must be made when teaching students how to read. More teachers are waking up and realizing that they have to begin making a change in order to serve their students. Now teachers are in search of phonics activities and routines that are going to support their instruction. However, so much of the information available to teachers is for younger students in K2. But we know that there is a big need for phonics instruction in upper elementary. And if your students are anything like mine, they don't want to participate in activities that feel too young. So I wanted to share some of the activities that I have implemented into my own classroom that my students love. These are simple activities that I have utilized every week, and in some cases, multiple times in a week to help support the needs of my students. Before I jump into the tips in this video, I wanted to share that many of the resources that you are going to see in this video are available in my community. Currently, the Bridging Literacy community is still open, and today is the final day that you can join. This is a place where teachers like you are working together to become masters of their content, while also working to offer their students engaging and rigorous activities. Once you sign up as a member, you will have access to the community library that is filled with student resources, unpacking Anchor Standard videos, and resources to help you grow as a professional. I encourage you to follow the link in the description below, or you can head over to www.theletteredclassroom.com/BLC and sign up today. Hurry now, because access to this membership is only open for one more day, and I'd like to welcome all of the new community members. I am so very, very excited to work with you. Activity number 1 is breaking and building words down with letters. Now, this first activity might seem basic, but it is an important opportunity for students to see how letters come together and also how they are broken apart. This activity is what I called build it, break it. So for the activity, you will want to have a series of cutout letters, and I recommend using cutout letters versus having some more magnetic letters for 2 different reasons. The first is that the letters give off a more big kid vibe than using those magnetic letters. For the second reason, you have the ability to color code. So I recommend using one color for consonants and then another color for the vowels. So for example, I have the blue color for my consonants, and then I have the yellow color for my vowels, including Y. This activity can be used in 2 different ways. The first is to build words using a specific pattern. I like to start by creating a list of words for that pattern that I'm focusing on. This might be blends, digraphs, or different vowel teams. Create a scaffold approach to building these words. For example, stick to 1-syllable words with a vowel team, and then list some of those more challenging words with 2 or 3 different syllables. Begin by telling your students to build a word. In this case, I'm building the word stay. So point out the pattern that is located, so the A and the Y. Continue by giving students one-syllable words and then have them discuss how they are going to change those words. So for example, going from stay to slay. You can increase the challenge to your students by moving from one-syllable words to two-syllable words and so on. Go back and forth on the syllables and allow your students to be more challenged in their thinking. Once students have built those words, then you can also begin to break them apart. For this activity, start by showing students the word on a dry erase board. Students will then build the word using the letter cards. As they build, they need to really pay attention to the consonants and which ones are vowels. Once students have built the word, have the student begin by separating them and sliding them into syllables apart from one another. Remind students that each syllable must have a vowel sound. I also use an anchor chart that is printed on legal paper and review the different syllable types. Once you've guided students in breaking down some of those syllables, students can then begin to scoop each of the syllables as they read the word. Then you can repeat this process with a brand new word. I recommend having at least 4 to 5 that you can practice with your students. Repeat these activities 1 to 2 times a week to build consistency in your learners. Activity number 2 is write on whiteboard and breaking down words. This next activity is a perfect pair with the one above it, or it can be used on its own if you are limited on time. Students can follow the same process as in the previous activity, but the key here is that students are practicing the formation of their letters when writing the word. Instead of you giving the steps, here are some of the tips for using this activity purposefully. Tip number 1, create a system that works for you when having students look for vowels and syllables. I have my students circle the vowels and then place a slash to indicate where the syllable break is located. Stay consistent no matter how you decide to do it. Tip number 2 is, as a way to see the similarities in words, have students create a list of words as they're writing them down. You can have students go back to the top and then read each word together. Tip number 3 is to correct any letter formations as students are writing words on their whiteboards. If necessary, you can provide students with smaller whiteboards to control their handwriting. Tip number 4, as students are writing, have them say each letter aloud to themselves. This will help your students trigger the letter and the sound and develop their process for orthographic mapping. And then finally, tip number 5 is have students place their markers above their board and their hands in their laps when you are wanting to explicitly model something. This will minimize the amount of students just sitting there drawing on their whiteboards versus focusing on your lesson. I love using whiteboards to build and dissect words. It is a very simple way to incorporate meaningful practice prior to reading a brand new passage. Activity number 3 is using clips to mark the type of syllable. During the first activity, I mentioned a little bit about syllable segmentation. This has been a critical component in my instruction with my upper elementary students. There are 6 syllable types that I teach with my students, and depending on their ability and the familiarity with words, each group focuses on a different starting point. I created a simple guide and a reminder for my students that is small enough for me to be able to keep up all year long. You're able to print these out on legal paper, and I've placed mine in my classroom near my small group area. In addition, I have a set of 2 anchors that offer the rules for syllable segmentation, and that really helps guide my students when they have reached an unknown multisyllabic word in their reading. Begin by creating a list of words that you're going to focus on during your group. Using a form of like sentence strips or index card, you're going to write each word on the card. It's important to have these pre-made in order to ensure that students have time to really hit on all of the contents within your small group lesson. Have a set of clothespin for each of your students. I recommend having at least 2 or 3 of each type of syllable, as some words might have more than one single syllable type. I've used a laminated cardstock image as a means to store and remind my students of each of the different types of syllables. Students will then read the word on the sentence strip, and then they will use the clothespins to break the word into syllables, while also considering the type of syllable that each one has, because this then tells them the type of vowel sound that it's going to make. This helps students identify the vowel sounds and how to pronounce each word. You could also do a different option of just creating a variety of syllable types and then have students build those words based on those syllable types. The only challenge with that activity is that you have a greater possibility of creating those nonsense words, which in my opinion are not as authentic. Activity number 4 is to read Decodables and highlight the focus pattern. Encourage students to read the patterns that you have pinpointed for your lesson using Decodables. One of the challenges that upper elementary teachers have is locating Decodables that have more of this big kid feel. That's why I have worked with my team to craft our own decodable stories that allow students to read the patterns and practice decoding the words, but also to search for meaning in that story. I begin by discussing and giving a little bit of a preview from the text. I have students begin by practicing some of the words that they will find in those texts using the list of the pattern that I have created beforehand. I begin by discussing and giving a little preview of the text, and I have my students begin by practicing some of the words that they're going to find in that text that really follow that pattern using one or both of the activities, either 1 or 2 that I have shared earlier in this video. Following this, I share with students some of the more challenging vocabulary words that they might find difficult when reading this text. I do this in a very simple format by writing the word on my whiteboard and then having them repeat the word and discussing the meaning. I tell students that as they read and they find the words that follow the pattern that we've been talking about in the story, that they're going to highlight those words as they read. If you prefer, you can walk through the sentences and identify the words together and highlight so that you know that they have those words correct and they know them prior to beginning reading. The point is that you want to make students aware using the decodable skills in order to read the passage thoroughly. I save these passages and then I send them home with students to read with their families and continue that practice the following week. Activity number 5 is sentence dictation. The final activity is a great way to practice sentence structure and give students additional practice with syllable segmentation and also those vowel patterns. Using a whiteboard, students will listen to a sentence that the teacher reads aloud. This can be a sentence from the passage that they read, or it can be one that you have created yourself. After the teacher reads the sentence, students make a light fist and lightly hit the table each time they say a word. Now, as you can imagine, it is very important to set the expectations of this early on and make sure that your students are not being too loud to disrupt others who are working independently. This process is to ensure that students know the sentence that they are going to write. By tapping the desk, it gives students the number of words that they're going to be writing. For additional support, you can have students then take their expo marker and then draw a line for each word in the sentence as they say the words aloud. When finished, students will write the words using the proper letter formation, spacing, and also punctuation. Have students identify the patterns and any of the words that need to be segmented into syllables. You can repeat this process as you see fit. I like to use the sentences from the passages that we have read together to make this more authentic. Plus, it cuts down on me having to pre-plan a lot of these sentences in advance, and it's always really hard to think of sentences on the fly. As you can imagine, there are a number of activities that you can implement to support phonics instruction in upper elementary. These are just some of the activities that I have implemented into my own classroom. And to recap, the 5 activities mentioned in this video are: Activity 1, building and breaking words; Activity number 2, write on whiteboards and breaking down words; Activity number 3 is using clips to mark the types of syllables; Activity number 4 is reading decodables and highlighting the focus pattern; and then Activity number 5 is the sentence dictation. I'd love to know what activities you're using inside of your classroom to support phonics instructions. Leave your comments down below and I look forward to reading them. And if you're interested in topics such as these, then I invite you to check out the Bridging Literacy community. This is truly a group of teachers who are working to support their students using those authentic and rigorous resources, but also helping to create more stability and finding a better work-life balance. You can check this all out by heading to www.theletteredclassroom.com/BLC or just follow the link down in the description. The community is currently open for a very limited time, really and truly 1 day, so head over and join teachers like you who are working to make a difference in education. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you all next time. Bye!